Well, hello there. Welcome. Pull up a chair and I'll tell you about the show. This is Untameable. And it's for you if you're a no bullshit kind of person and you are done with constantly having to prove yourself, jump through other people's hoops and please them, and you want to experience the freedom and the power of living in the fullness of who you really are and who you want to be. I'm Hayley, your host. I'm a confidence and empowerment coach, a professionally trained actor, and a pole dancing potty mouth pom residing here in Australia. And I created the Untameable show as a place for candid, vulnerable, and at times risque conversation on all things empowered living and expression. This is where we challenge conditioning and the status quo, and where we step into the joy, the passion, and the power of our truth. Because let's face it, life is too short, so fuck playing small and fuck apologising for who you are. So if this sounds like exactly the kind of thing that is right up your alley, grab a chair, make a cuppa, and enjoy.
So I guess the thread that feels alive when I say there's so much that, could be gone into, and we touched on it when we chatted before this, before we scheduled this. And it's just around the being disconnected from our power. I think that there's been, I don't think it's an accident, that we have been conditioned to hold shame around our blood and our bodies. And I think that there's been, essentially, we've been disconnected from our most potent source of power as women. And so that was what I was referring to when I was like, oh, you could go into like a whole thing around it.
Go there.
And so, I really believe this. I really believe this. I think the idea of wrapping a tampon up in a tissue and popping it in the bin is symbolic of almost saying like, I know being a woman is dirty and shameful, and I know that this belongs in the trash.
Yeah. I can already hear my head trying to rationalize that and justify, but no. But then my heart is like, well, hang on a minute. There's something in this.
Yeah, because it's like, it's life force. It's the baby we didn't have that month. And it comes from this space in the body that is worthy of reverence. So, for me, it was going from, okay, sure, I'm going to put this in the bin. I'm going to pretend that this is not happening. I'm going to go play tennis now, and that can just go in the toilet, to being like, actually, this is a gift of being a woman. My body is performing a miracle right now, doing this beautiful release, and circulating like it's I'm going to connect with this. I want to see it. I want to feel it. I want to honor it. I want to water my plants with it, whatever it may be.
It blows my mind.
Yeah, it blows my mind that it is, it's been part of my self-care practice and self-honoring practice for such a long time now that
wow. Wow. Oh, I want to hear more. I want to hear more. Yeah. I should give you free reign.
Right. There's more. So yeah, for me, that was just my way of saying, actually, this is beautiful. This is symbolic of woman. Like, this is a symbol of my capability of like creating life. This is my time. Like, my body is releasing, and I'm going to give my body space to rest and to do that, rather than overriding and being like, yep, I see you're doing a thing, you're bleeding, I'm going to go to the gym anyway. It's like just listening. And like, people close to me in my life, all I have to do is say I'm bleeding. They know not to call me. They know I'm unavailable for a few days. So I hold quite it's a core value for me, just honoring my body. And so that's been a huge part of, listening to my body, listening to my vagina, offering
Mm.
reverence.
Mm.
Mm,
And I can feel and hear the power that you connect to in this. My body can hear and feel that power. So coming back to what you said about, and I think this came up in our first conversation. I think I can't remember if it's sensuality or sexuality. I think you might have said it is our power. That's our source of power.
mm,
And I feel the pull towards that, the yearning for that, the cracks in the mind beginning to open even more around all the stuff I've been taught from a little girl around periods and bleeding on my vagina, and you don't show that and you don't talk about it, and all of that stuff. And I'd love to speak for the women who may be listening to this and really struggling, like struggling to hear it, but they're still listening, struggling to hear it and feeling squeamish and maybe asking the question, where the fuck do I even start? How would I ever get there? I don't know if I ever want to have this kind of relationship, who might be being like, ew, what the hell? Yet, what would you say about the benefit, the power behind this, how that can start to come through, how that can start to play out in our lives in a really tangible sense? What would you say to women who might be like, I don't know if I could handle this?
My first invitation would be, whose voice is that? What was the moment of separation for you? What was the moment you decided? Because you've been fed this, it's a story you've been handed. And like, when I look at where this story has come from, I'm like, is that how I want to be? Like, numb, disconnected, it's this kind of like patriarchal way of being. I feel like that word's so overused at the moment, but
Yeah, I get what you mean.
I would invite those listeners to be really curious and be like, oh, this is what's coming up for me. What is that? Where has that come from? Is this like my mother's voice? Is this my father's voice? Is this like what moment did you disconnect from this part of yourself? It's just a part of you. It's just a part of you. You either reject it and put it in the bin, or you embrace it as beautiful and worthy of your acceptance.
How do you work with your clients around this, around what we're talking about now, like this process, if you do cover this work with your clients? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, like, because I work with, and I work with astrology as well, so it's like the first thing I do is like birth details. What's the chart doing, and when did you last bleed? And so just, yeah, we're so cyclic. We operate naturally, organically, in like seasonally. Our cycle is literally connected to the moon. Mine's like clockwork. Like I bleed with the moon phases, and it shifts and changes, but there's always a connection, and I feel it palpably. So yeah, just working with that, honoring the time that they're bleeding, working with that. It's so organic now, it's just like offering them practices to actually, like during our whatever we're working on, that cycle, being able to tap into the bleed and the release if they're still bleeding. Like that's their time to release. So it's like we unpack things throughout the month, and then leading into the body, preparing to release. It's like, how are we going to mindfully?
Oh, I like this.
You know what I mean? But it's an opportunity. It's like your body's releasing. So like, what are you releasing? Put a little bit of intention into it and do it mindfully.
Oh, I like seeing this, that there's the release. What can I bring my attention and intention to around the release? What am I releasing for what purpose? So that's the release phase. What have you identified as the other phases, like when we're not releasing? What do you call that for yourself?
Well, I mean, I guess the two key phases are like, the bleed and ovulation. So for me, the time of ovulation is like the body's wanting to conceive a baby, So it's like it's the time of like juiciness, ripeness, aliveness, you know, like what is your vagina doing during ovulation? You know, she's extra juicy, she's extra open, you know, she's
I love that. I love this. I'm getting images of what am I bringing into my life? What's becoming ripe within me right now? What ideas, what creations? This is the time to create and play and explore and be open and say yes. Kind of that like conception period. And then the release period being, I'm going to what obligations am I going to let go of? What things am I now going to unshackle myself from? Or it feels like a different, it's not quite an antithesis, but one feels more active. One feels more the expansive, and another feels more, it's not passive, but it feels more, okay, I'm just going to allow, I'm going to relinquish control. I'm going to it's like I'm saying yes to something else. I'm not saying yes to, okay, I've got to do this thing. I've got to go to the gym and play tennis. It's I'm going to say yes to the letting go now, so that when my next conception phase comes, I can then enjoy the juicy and the ripening and the opening of things and ideas and creation. This is how my mind is hearing what you're sharing.
Yeah, I love that. And that feels really true for me as well. Like, and I think that would be a really basic starting point for the women that might be like feeling something stirring, but a bit of a contraction. My invitation would be, just when you're bleeding, just ask yourself, what is it that I'm releasing? And when you're ovulating, just ask yourself, what is it that I'm creating? And just start working, you know, like know that your body's supporting you in those energetics at those times. Like it's things that you're doing anyway, you're creating anyway, you're releasing anyway. But if you do it at the right times, the times in which your body is doing it anyway, we get to experience more ease and more flow, because we're not fighting the natural rhythms that our bodies know.
What a great episode. Wasn't it awesome? I trust you got heaps of gold out of that one and that you enjoyed the tips. Do let me know how you go with those, by the way. Hit me up with a DM on Instagram at all lowercase letters, _embodied_woman. I'll pop it in the show notes with everything else. Subscribe if you love us, rave about us to others, and leave us a review anywhere you want, really, so more humans can benefit from these important, powerful conversations that we are having. We're trying to start a movement here. #Untameable, #FuckPlayingSmall, and we'd love for you to be a part of it. And if you might perchance like to be on this end of the screen or the airwaves, depending if you're listening or watching, with me, and you've got a story to tell or something important to share around what we're all about here at Untameable, then you can apply to be a guest. Yes, just check the show notes. As I said, everything is there. So until next time, beautiful, take care and enjoy the rest of your day.